Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to StarterStudio. We're really excited that you're here today. For those of you that are here for the first time, on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have our lunch and learns, and Monday nights we have our founder talks. If you're not getting our emails already, please go to StarterStudio.com, sign up for our emails. Also, we have a free meetup page, which is really awesome to follow along and see when we announce meetups and events that are happening in this space. I'd like to thank our community supporters as well as our sponsors. We're very fortunate. Some of their names are up on the wall as well as outside there and on our website. I'd like to point out CFR and also TriNet. They've been great supporters, as well as Kind Bar. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. He's an online marketing and social media strategist focused on all levels of strategy development, implementation, and evaluation. Successfully assists organizations, develops, redesigns existing marketing models to satisfy clients' needs and exceed ROI expectations.
Well, that's a mouthful, right?
Right, it is.
That's my SEO keyword heavy
That's good.
about page, so sorry.
Thanks for joining me. I've met Mark just over 2 years ago, and I've been following him online, and it's been an honor, and I'm always excited and overwhelmed when I hear him speak. Our curriculum committee wanted to specifically, as well as our starters, wanted to have him speak, and when this topic came up and what he's going to be talking about, it makes a lot of sense. So please join me in welcoming Mark.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. All right, I appreciate that intro. So welcome everybody. I appreciate you showing up for this. And bear with me, I like to walk around a lot when I'm talking. And as you can see, I don't need a microphone. But today's talk, I was asked to talk about online marketing for startups, right? That's a lot. And I've already learned that some of you aren't even startups, right? So you already work at companies that have been well established. Let's go a little background on me. I have been involved in social media one way or another since 2006, both at the corporate level, startup level, small and medium-sized businesses, agency, independent consulting, and my resume is about 45 different companies in about 15 different industries. I've taken a full-time gig here at Code School. I'm the director of marketing and growth, so we pretty much do everything other than web development, design, and course development. So officially, the way I call it is I'm a social media strategist. I'd like to put that online marketing piece there for my resume. I'm really fascinated about analytics and measurement. I have 3 degrees in criminology because I love human behavior. So very fascinated with human behavior. And I also, when I look at social media, I don't look at it as social media anymore. I look at it as communication logistics, which is a mouthful. But at the end of the day, logistics is what it all comes down to. So Brian goes to me, he goes, hey man, I want you to talk about, like that animation, Greg? I know you're probably cringing, but so he goes to me, he says, I want you to talk about online marketing and email. And I go, wow, great. You got like 40 or 50 days where I can talk about this stuff? Because that's a lot. It's kind of like talking about online web development, right? Or doing some sort of web development. So it's kind of hard to distill that down. And then on top of that, I would imagine how many people here represent a startup in a traditional sense? How many people work at a well-established company? Okay. So probably you have many different needs and wants, but at the same breath, you all have the same goal, right? You're in business to do something and make money and fulfill some sort of passion that you're passionate about, right? So I said to myself, online marketing is pretty tough to really cover in 30 minutes. So what I thought I'd do is a much higher level theoretical talk. And I promise you, at least I hope so, you're going to get something out of this where you can get your money back. Okay? So what I thought I'd start with was myths. These are conventional wisdom that everybody tells you, right? And I thought usually when I do a presentation or I do some sort of presentation to a large group where I'm trying to sell something, I usually do one, 2 or 3 wow statistics to really captivate you and kind of get your attention. But I thought this particular case, I'd go into this, and these are the things that everybody tells you that you need to do for what's really important. right? And that first thing is that people are basically, or you may even think this, people are waiting for your product, right? I got a really good friend of mine who was a CMO for about 40 years, and his biggest thing is loyalty marketing. And he always tells me, Mark, no one is sitting on their ass at home waiting for the phone to ring so they can give you money, right? So if you build it, does not necessarily mean that they will come. I'm sure we all know this, right? So, for what I do for a living, not just online marketing, but also retention and communication logistics and getting feedback, this is really important, right? Because you have to make sure that whatever you're building is going to be used. The next thing is social media. I'm a social media guy. Before that, I spent 10.5 years in operations and sales and customer service. And I remember when I first got the bug in 2006, I was in San Francisco for the Word of Mouth Marketing Association, and everybody said we had to be on MySpace, or our company would fail. And like an idiot, I came home and went to my CEO and went to my CMO and said, we got to be on MySpace, otherwise the company's going to go under, right? So I was one of those idiots, right? Now people will tell you you need a Facebook page. Now people are going to tell you you need a Twitter page or a Twitter account. Other people are going to tell you that you need to be on Pinterest, right? The fact of the matter is, I don't believe you do, right? In fact, I can't count how many times, and this came to me when I was taking off. Okay. I was thinking about this when I was preparing for this and working on this last night. The funniest thing I've ever had to go through, and it was actually kind of sad if you think about it, one of my clients when I was in Minecom in town was SeaWorld. And I was talking to one of their people that came in to get my advice on something. And that person said, I really need your help. My boss tells me I need another 1 million likes on my Facebook page. And I'm like, he goes, what can I do? And I said, go get another job, right? Because A, what are you going to do with all those baseball cards? And B, who gives a shit about all those likes? It's what you do with them, right? Because there was really no backup plan as to what you're going to do with all these likes. So I would say that this is probably one of the bigger myths in online marketing is that you have to be on social media, right? Next thing is you need a lot of money. A lot of money helps. And it's funny is that the majority of the clients that I've worked with over time generally don't have a lot of money. So you really have to just, and I don't mean to be so vulgar, but when I was wrestling, when I wrestled in high school, I had this great Irish coach who used to say, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, which is basically, you know what? You got to do something, make do with what you got type deal, right? So bottom line is, if you don't have a big budget or if you don't have a lot of money, you still got to do something. And it's okay if you don't have a lot of money. I think what it really boils down to is time. Time is a hell of a lot more important than money. Okay? So does that make sense so far? Okay. So let's talk about opportunity. Anybody here have ever seen Clay Shirky talk or Rachel Botsman? Okay, I urge you to check them out on TED.
What's the name?
Clay Shirky, he teaches at NYU. He's very famous for the concept of cognitive surplus. So it's Clay Shirky. He's got about 5 or 6 videos on TED. The next one is Rachel Botsman. And Rachel is just like it sounds, and then it's Botsman, B-O-T-S-M-A-N. She talks about the reputation economy that we're in right now. What I'm leading up to is when I say opportunity, I don't think there's a better time in human history right now to be an entrepreneur or to have a startup or to go into business for yourself. Technology has never been cheaper. Greg, when I met you back in 2006, you were talking about how do we deliver educational content in video form. And obviously technology was a hell of a lot more expensive with video back then than it is today. Technology is cheap, right? So this is a fabulous thing. Whether you've been doing this as long as I have or if you're brand new to this. And what's really exciting, and I tell you to go to listen to Clay Shirky or even read his book or talk about Rachel Botsman is because what's really cool is since I've been around since 2006, I've seen an incredible change in terms of online marketing and social media. Back in 2006, when the movement really took off and the technology started to get very, very cheap, with simple publishing platforms like a blog. Everybody remember what blogs are, right? And also Twitter came along. This is a really cool, and this is probably the only really heavy-duty chart I'm going to give you. But there's this great PDF that was just published by Altimeter earlier this year called Shiny Objects or Digital Intelligence Hub. And what I want you to get out of this is a simple fact that the industry has evolved. And I want you to understand where we are today as opposed to where we were with this cheap technology for engagement and marketing, right? Both social and online. Back in 2006, we started with simple engagement, right? We're able to engage with people and actually have a conversation. If you listen to Clay Shirky, he'll tell you that the first time in human history, groups are able to talk to individuals, individuals are able to talk to groups, groups are able to talk to groups, and also individuals are able to talk to individuals at any given time. It's never been we've never had that type of communication before. This is what was really cool is we were starting to realize we could actually have a conversation with our clients. You want a really good book to read? Read the Clue Train Manifesto. Came out in 2000 or 2001, and they talked about the death of marketing as we know it, and they predicted this thing to happen, exactly what I'm describing right here. It's a very cheap book, and it's actually free online, I think, and it's only 100 pages.
Is
right?
it Clue Train?
The Clue Train Manifesto, it's a series of editorials by 4 very important individuals in technology, right? So, 2006 was the birth of the community manager. That's where I got hooked. Funny enough, the terminology was coined on the same day by 2 individuals in different parts of the coast, different parts of the United States. One was here in Orlando. His name's Josh Howell at Bocha. And also Jeremiah Owang in San Francisco. They both wrote blog posts saying, wouldn't it be cool with all this technology to have somebody that represented the brand online, but also represented the customer inside to leadership? And that way you could learn what's working and what's not working. So that's really cool. So that went on for a couple of years, but then all of a sudden, really when I got in the swing of things and went over to MindCommon here in town that's no longer here, I started up their social media consulting firm. Basically we went to more from community to strategy, so now we started doing social business, right? We started integrating Facebook with email. We started integrating Twitter with blogs and what have you. We started having a feedback loop. We started pushing and pulling feedback, and most importantly, deals and customer service issues. Now it became part of business. It was no longer a fad. Now community managers are kind of like entry-level people, and really the people that are driving our social strategies, right? The beautiful thing is where we are right now at stage 3. Right? That's why I say you've got an amazing opportunity. Because right now, you're talking about insight and action. Right now, you can sit down, and Dell does a really good job of this, right? Believe it or not, they do it in 2 different ways. Dell will do weekly Google Hangouts with their people to educate them about their product, but also to learn how they can do their product better. Dell also has a thing called Firestorm, where they allow both their employees and their customers to come up with new ideas and talk about them and vote them up or down. And if you want to see something very, very fascinating, go to that website and see how many of those ideas are being talked about and which ones are being implemented. I think it's about 3%. And some of these ideas are about changing the layout of their sales pages. Think about that. Your customers are now telling you what would make it better in terms of a sales situation, how they can check out easier and get to know more information about the product. That's unheard of as of 10 years ago. So now, let's get overwhelmed. Let's go, okay, here we are, 2014. Mark's saying this is the best time to go ahead and start a business. This is a great time because of social media. And Mark, go ahead and start talking about online marketing. Well, just to start talking about the initial phase of getting people in the door, meaning into your sales funnel, you have all these opportunities. You've got email, you've got pay-per-click, you've got SEO, you've got affiliate marketing, you've got social media, you've got PR, you've got retargeting, and the list goes on and on. This is just something I came up with 5 minutes. And I'm sure I'm missing some, right? So when you're figuring out what to do with your business or how to move the needle, you start getting inundated with stuff like this. And you start saying, what is, by the way, each one of these is pretty much a full-time position or a specialist. That's what really sucks, right? But for the most part, you know, you can find out a lot about this stuff on the internet and actually teach yourself. But what I'm leading up to is this is very overwhelming for you because pretty soon you start looking like this guy. When your boss tells you you gotta move the needle, and you start thinking about all the money you can start investing in or time in, you start going, where should I start? And you start freaking out. Very easy to do. I've been doing this for a long time, and even I find myself doing too much when it should just be something simple and focus on a couple things, right? So, in terms of the theoretical stuff that I want to talk about, I don't want you walking out of here looking like this guy. I want to say, hey, congratulations, everybody gets a balloon today. You're going to get something. You're going to have something to take home today, right? So hopefully you're going to learn something. You guys like balloons? I hope so. I like them, but I never get to have them because I have kids. They always steal them. Probably the most important thing that I could give somebody in terms of advice for building your business or any type of initiative or trying to spark your business is to really look at how you're executing any type of online marketing plan. And I keep on finding myself going back to this blog post that was written in 2007. Excuse me. By Forrester Marketing. Forrester Marketing proposed in 2007 a way to figure out your social media strategy for your business, right? And what they did is they proposed a very simple thing called the POST method, right? They said if you follow this POST method, tried and true, and by the way, does everybody know who Forrester Marketing is? They're pretty important, right? They're a pretty big marketing firm. Check them out sometimes. They got some free stuff. It's really interesting.
What's the name again?
Forrester Marketing.
Is it research though? Forrester research?
Yeah, they do Forrester research, but they have a marketing arm. And this, just so you know, I'm trying to think. This guy's name is Josh Brenoff, B-E-R-N-O-F-F. He worked with Charlene Lee on a book called Groundswell that came out in 2007 or 8. Very influential and talks about online marketing, but also connecting with your audience and how to connect with your audience. But what was really cool about this is this simple blog post has basically resonated over the years with guys like me and, you know, people that do what I do. And I found that if you take this formula and you apply it to anything that you want to do, let's say you want to go ahead and build an email list, or let's say you want to go ahead and you want to do something with an email list, or let's say you want to do something and build out a guerrilla campaign, or you want to do pay-per-click or whatever. There is a easy way to do this as long as you follow a simple formula called the POST method. And by the way, I'm going to give you the way that they define it and how I've kind of evolved that POST method. The first is POST. The P stands for people. And the way that Forrester Marketing and Josh originally proposed this is that whenever you do any type of strategy, you should always look at the people that you're trying to engage with. Being a Clue-trained manifestoite that I am, I'm a firm believer that the only difference between a customer and employee is that simple construct known as a company, right? We're all customers. And sometimes you got to think like a customer, not just an employee, right? And sometimes your best customer feedback comes from your employees. So what I'm leading up to is before you do anything, do your research, right? Find out what the needs and the wants of your customers are, and also look at your employees. And if you're a one-person company, the other variable you need to start looking at is, what are you able to do? What I mean by that is how committed are you? Did everybody see the Untouchables with Sean Connery? Great line in that, and I always used to use that whenever I was pitching, is that social media or any type of online marketing is kind of like that scene in The Untouchables when Elliot Ness goes to Sean Connery, I'm going to go after De Niro or whatever, and Sean Connery goes, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to go the whole way? Because this isn't something that you can just do half-assed. It's like getting married. You actually have to be committed to it, right? So when it comes to people, the hardest thing to do is to look internally and say, okay, what kind of resources do I really have to do this initiative? If I have a huge email list, what do I have internally to actually commit to this email list, right? I can't tell you how many times I've had a CEO come to me and go, hey, I really would like to do a blog. Should I do a blog? And I'm like, I don't know, should you do a blog? I really don't care, right? If you want to do a blog, go ahead. But I know statistically speaking that it takes a commitment because it shows, and has shown since 2006, that 60% of people fail with their blog. You can correct me on this. 60% of people fail within a 60-day period because they haven't thought out their internal resources, they haven't thought out their audience, they haven't done their research, and they haven't thought about how much time am I willing to commit to this particular endeavor. That's the most important part. That's the baby step, and it's very, very vital to whatever you do. The next thing is the next thing is objectives. The O in POST stands for objectives, and when Josh originally proposed this, he was talking about what are the objectives of what you're trying to do. I would take that a step further, and what I used to tell clients when I pitch them is I would say, what are your business objectives? Right? What do you need to do as opposed to what you want to do? I know you want 1 million Facebook likes over the next year, but what do you need to do? You need to get bodies in the gates, right? At SeaWorld, you need them to spend an extra $5 every visit, buying an extra hot dog or an extra soda to get your per person lifetime value, right? So it's very important that once you've done and figured out what your resources are and who your audience is to now look at, okay, what are the true business objectives of what you're trying to do, both short-term and long-term, and what's realistic for you to attack right now as opposed to 9 months from now or 18 months from now, right? By the way, this can be a full-blown out strategy or this can be chicken scratch and a napkin, right? It really is up to you on what you want to do. You get what you put into it. How am I doing on time?
12:25.
Okay. Are you all learning something on this? Mm-hmm. Is this good? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. The next is strategy. Did it? Oh. There we go. The next is strategy. Once you've done that research and you've really given it some thought, this is where you come up with a strategy. Strategy should never be first, and then worry about resources and your business objectives. Okay? That research drives your strategy. Any questions on that? Because that one's very simple, right? Very, very simple. And then comes the technology. I would argue that it's not technology, it's actually tools. Tomato, right? So, see where I mean by social media? If you don't have the resources, and it doesn't meet your business objective, that's not part of your strategy, what the hell are you doing on Facebook? And if you don't have those 3 to support an email campaign, what are you doing on email? I would argue you need to be on email, probably more important for almost any business as opposed to Facebook, but at the end of the day, I don't know your business. You know your business. Hopefully you know your business, right? And this is where every hippo, does everybody know what a hippo is? Highest paid person in the room? This is where the hippos make mistakes. Is they say, we need to be on Facebook. We need 1 million likes. We need an email campaign tomorrow, right? Does it match our business objectives? Do we have the bandwidth to do it? Do we need to hire more people? Do we need to contract out? Do we need to reassess things internally? Those questions get really uncomfortable when you're a one-person team. or you're a two-person team, and you have no budget, right? So that's, see, everybody got a blue one. You guys, you're all happy with that? You got that formula post? Pretty easy to remember, right? Right? So I thought I'd go ahead and kind of end the talk, because I'd like to open up for questions. Kind of like best practices that I've learned over the years using this formula, and also doing online marketing. And again, my background is, it was originally customer service and sales in an outbound, and I was in operations management, so I worked for Carnival Cruise Lines as a director for a while, and 3 degrees of criminology, and then also worked for another outbound call center. Went to higher education for a while. So I think I've learned a little bit in terms of sales and customer service with outreach, right? Engaging with people. And that's why I think when I see the technology advancements that we're benefiting from right now, it's a really exciting time to start a business or to enhance your business, right? So these are kind of my best practices. And I have a lot of best practices, but I just kind of distilled this down. The first thing is, unless you got a lot of money, you're gonna have to start small. And starting small is good, right? Short of Ted Murphy, everybody know Ted Murphy? I used to work for Ted Murphy, and Ted Murphy one day woke up and said, I want to be a marathon runner, and he trained to be a marathon runner in 30 days. That's insane. But so is Ted Murphy.
You ran
And
a
I love
marathon?
it. You ran a marathon in 30 days, right? What I'm leading up to is you don't do your first marathon after training for 2 weeks or 30 days. You start small, right? So if you're a branding company, you don't have an email list, well, if that's your business objective and you've got the time to do it, maybe you need to start small and start building up your email list, right? Before you do an email campaign. And before you start doing onboarding campaigns or retention campaigns or re-engagement campaigns, right? There's a whole world of email out there that you could run. So start small. And if you got the money, then I would probably spend that money on PPC and advertising and retargeting and so on, right? To go ahead and build that base up. This next best practice I would say is probably, and this is probably the most important given how overwhelmed and where you can spend your money, is really creating qualified lead pipelines. Okay, does anybody know what that means? Anybody? What do you think I mean?
I think Bob Walker's list, Pinterest is a problem, lead pipelines, so get
Well, what is it?
reviewers from that. Social media networks, people looking for people to your site for a long time.
It's good, it's good. I'm thinking more along the lines is that if your business objective is to make conversions, right, and it's supposed to be conversions, let's say, I got a buddy of mine that does, believe it or not, he's one of the most famous beaded handbag designers in the world. It's like one of 3, right? Pinterest has not proven to be a qualified lead pipeline for him for the time and effort spent to do it. And what I mean by that is, yes, he gets some brand recognition, but at the end of the day, it's not selling purses, right? Having worked in, you got a question?
Just a question. I'm not a master in English, and English is not my first language, so that's why.
It's okay.
How do you read that? Lead pipelines or lead pipelines?
Oh, lead pipelines. Lead pipelines.
Because lead can go to the understanding that is flexible.
Okay, I think I understand it. Bottom line is we're looking at whenever you have a sales funnel and you want to drive potential new customers or repeat customers, you want to drive them to a funnel. This is the funnel is pipeline is another word for funnel. And what I'm talking about is the quality of the people that go into that funnel. Obviously, you want to spend your money and your time where you're getting the most bang for your buck. Does that make sense? Okay. So when I did a lot of recruiting with online marketing, which sucks, by the way, right? I did a lot of online recruiting when I was in higher education, and you'd be amazed on how hard it is to create qualified lead pipelines. Because you're in a human flesh trade, I guess, as a recruiter, right? Hopefully there's no recruiter share. But it's tough. It's tough to recruit people away from a job, especially a job that they love, and then put them in the right place. And those type of people, especially in this particular case, it was healthcare. It was really hard to get people away because they're not online that much, right? What I'm leading up to is sometimes, depending on your business, you really have to figure out with your business objectives, like in this particular case, my business objective was high frequency hires. That means that we may have hired maybe 30 people a month. And then there were low frequency hires, which were people like maybe 1 every 2 months, right? So it was very challenging to figure out the lead pipelines that made the most sense to find those individuals. And that took a lot of practice and a lot of research and a lot of time spent figuring out where those lead pipelines were and which ones were the ones that paid off the best. And that's what I mean by it takes a long time to figure out what works the best, right? The cool thing about that is once you set a lead pipeline and you start thinking about alternative lead pipelines that you can start building, you can really build your business out. Because once that qualified lead pipeline is in place, and as long as you take care of it, like retargeting. What I've learned from retargeting over the last year and a half, does everybody know what retargeting is? Anybody? What is it? Yeah. So if you visit a site, like if you go to codeschool.com, by the way, go to codeschool.com. When you go to codeschool.com, you're going to get a cookie. Sorry, but you get a cookie. So everywhere you go on the internet, you're going to see one of our ads. Okay? That's retargeting. I'm sorry, but that's online marketing.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. It's actually it's actually a great way to engage with people and really have a qualified lead pipeline. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's very cool. And what I'm leading up to is those lead pipelines are really important. So what I've learned from what I was getting to with retargeting is what I've learned is retargeting. You need to update your ads at least every 45 days. Because pretty soon people get blind to your ads.
Did you say 45 days?
Every 45 days I change out your ads and retarget. That's pretty much the industry norm that I've gotten from AdWorld. That's who we use, right? So that's part of looking at your resources and your business objectives and your strategy, right? And then looking at the tools, see how that all kind of ties together where you're like, okay, we can do this, but what's it going to take to keep it alive? I always equate any type of social media initiative as like having a child. How many people here have children? Okay. You got to keep them alive, right? You can't just open up the door and put it. I'm listening to this Jim Gaffigan book right now. It's absolutely hilarious when he's trying to convince his wife, I don't want to have to get up early in the morning to make a breakfast. I'm going to put a dog bowl out with cereal so I don't have to deal with it. I was thinking, that's not a bad idea. So what I'm leading up to is you really do have to take care of it. It's like having a child. And I would argue that it's not just social media, it's any online marketing initiative or anything that you do that engages with potential, existing, or alumni customers. See how I bucketed that? There's 2 different buckets for customers, right? And it's very vital. Here's my favorite. This is one that gets me excited. Anybody know what Jason Falls is? Okay, that's cool. He kind of burned out. But about 5 years ago, he wrote a really good blog post. It says, you know what? We suck at research. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty good headline. So I started reading it, and he's right. We don't do enough research because technology is changing at a rapid pace, and it's worse and worse every day. I shouldn't say worse, it's getting better every single day. And we don't do enough research. What I mean by that is you don't spend enough time on your industry or your craft. Those are 2 different things, right? Up until maybe about a year ago, I would be looking at a Google Reader and looking at about 400 different blogs in different categories just to read the headlines. right? Part of it would be about what's going on in the industry, and part of it would be, hey, what's going on with Facebook? And you know, Facebook, you can go crazy looking at Facebook's algorithm and how many times it changes, or how many times they change your ads, and the whole 9 yards. But what I'm saying is, it's very, very very vital that you make sure that you take some time out of your day, regardless of what your commitments are, to make sure that you are doing the proper research. And if you're getting ready to do something like the post method, and you're going to take this seriously, okay, instead of having a clubhouse that makes money, you actually want to be a business, and you don't want to be good, you want to be great. You're going to have to invest some education time. And I know you're probably not going to want to. You're probably going to watch The Daily Show, or you're probably going to watch football, or one of the others, right? Or Survivor. Who saw Survivor last night? Did you see that one coming? No Survivor coming. Okay. I'm forced to watch Survivor. But what I'm leading up to is we don't do enough research. And we suck at it. And the good news is everybody's in that same boat. So even if you did a half an hour a day, I guarantee you're up on your competition, right? And you have to be disciplined to do it, right? I like Google Reader, or actually Google Reader doesn't exist anymore, but I like having some sort of reader like Flipboard. It's pretty decent, right? Even if you're just skimming the headlines, right? Get in that habit. Your business will definitely prosper from it, right? And then here's the last one. At least I hope it is. Okay. I know a lot of people probably consider me very anal about it, but I like to do quarterly reviews, whether I want to or not. That's basically when I have a plan or a strategy, I like to go back and look at it and see what did I do right, you know, what panned out, and what didn't we do so right, and where do we need to adjust it. And that's a very uncomfortable situation to put yourself through, but it's necessary and it's part of growing up, and it's part of your business growing up. And if you don't do this consistently, your business will never get better, right? Unless you're super, super lucky and somebody wants to give you a shit ton of money, like an Instagram or something like that, because fat hat, right? So bottom line is, does that make sense? Make sure that you're going down, and even if it's a one-person company, I would take a whole day out, you know, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday, and actually really revisit what was your plan back in December as opposed to today, right? I just did one with Greg, I think, April 12th, right? So it's kind of cool, but it also kind of sucked because I had to talk about stuff that we weren't doing, that I said we were going to do. Okay. Cool? So, in conclusion, let's just recap. Remember those myths, those old ladies and their wives' tales about simply, I forget what was the first one I said. Bottom line is you have to be on social media. If you build it, they will come. All that other crap, right? Don't get caught up in the myths. And I know that some of you can go to events. It's very interesting. You go to if you go to like Orlando Tech Meetup this night, I definitely urge you to go. You're gonna integrate, and you're gonna talk with a lot of people, and you're gonna get some fantastic ideas, right? Don't make knee-jerk decisions. Remember, it comes down to your business. What's best for your business? It's great to get feedback, and it's great to do that osmosis where you learn, right? But at the end of the day, you really got to think what's best for me, but most importantly, what's best for the business in terms of resources and your business objectives. How much time do you really have? And here's another one. This is one that me and my team always got to kind of catch ourselves when we're talking about things. Is it really doesn't matter what you think in terms of what you offer as a product or a service. It matters about the people. What really matters is the people, what the people who pay your bills think, right? So that's why it's really important to know who your clients are, what their needs are, not what their wants are, right? I want 1 million Facebook users. I need more people in the door, spending more money, right? Next thing is opportunity. Sorry I couldn't find a better picture of this, but I thought it was kind of cute to have 2 lizards in my hands. But at the end of the day, I can't think of a better time in human history to have or to do this. And what I think is really cool, you know, I'm kind of babysitting we have a PR person that flew in from town. And she's awesome. She's absolutely awesome. But I'm going to be with her for the next 2 days, like showing her around and interviewing with people that we're in. And I would definitely take advantage of this. It's not just the opportunity that we have today with technology and what you can do with that technology, how you can engage with people, but it's also spaces like this where you're able to interact with people on a daily basis, right? It's really cool as I sat down with Joshua Johnson, who I've known for a long time, but just had a really crazy day the other day, and I sat down with Joshua and we just talked about some of the stuff he's doing on the charity side for the homeless, which had nothing to do with his business or my business, but we started talking about ideas and we started integrating what we do professionally and what we know about the problem, and we started kicking around some new ideas. And some of those ideas bounce back into what I do on a daily basis where I get paid, and some of those ideas bounce back to Joshua's full-time job, right? So, huge opportunity, and I can't think of a better time. Actually, I'm very excited about what my kids are going to be doing. I got a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they both love the code, even though they're really bad at it, and they'd rather play Minecraft sometimes, but so here's another one. Sorry about the picture, but the post note, right? Whether you agree with it or not, I challenge you to at least try it, right? And it's okay to go ahead and evolve it to your needs. But I warn you, I would at least look at your resources first before you do any type of event, right? I think that's probably the most important thing. One thing to look at your audience, another thing to look at your resources. Cool? And then best practice. Research, 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 research. Don't sound like a big fat chatty Cathy. Let's pull my string, right? It's very important to do your research, and I can't say that enough. Okay? Any questions? Yeah.
Where do you do your research? What sort of blogs do you use to like learn about strategies and things like that?
That's a great question. I'll answer this way. Ever heard of Alltop? Okay. Guy Kawasaki. Everybody heard of Guy Kawasaki? Okay. He came up with this brilliant idea that I kind of hate, but he basically went out and he researched the top blogs on the web. And he basically has, if you go to Alltop, it'll basically say, let's say you're interested in SEO, probably the most simple one to do. He'll have a page laid out of the top blogs in SEO, right? And when you do research, and now I'm going back to the beginning of social media when I started doing it, when people started saying, how do you do research or how do you figure out how to do your blogging strategy? I always recommend the first thing to do is to go out there and figure out first what you're passionate about, but in your case, let's say, you know, what you're passionate about for work, right? So if you sell, what does your business do?
Games.
Even better, right? So if you do something like that, if you want to learn blogging strategy, or you want to learn something in particular to do with games, if you go to Alltop, there's an actual page just for online gaming. And I bet you there's one just for mobile gaming. And that allows you to read the top blogs. And what's really cool and is what you do is you start looking at each one of these blogs, you visit them, and then you start seeing who they're referencing, right? And you're kind of meandering down a really beautiful path of information, right? That kind of sets the tone for what you should be looking at, what you shouldn't be looking at. And it's kind of like the famous Supreme Court thing, that settlement about pornography. It's like, I don't know what the hell it is, but when I see it, I know it's pornography.
Obscenity.
Well, obscenity, right? Okay.